can actually compare over time the traffic. So let's go to the top traffic sources again. And let's say we want to know, okay, so overall, Midwest Sports Fans has driven 22,000 views, right? But has that changed at all maybe over the past 2 weeks? So let's go in here and let's compare Sunday the 9th of October through the 22nd. And let's compare an equivalent time frame. Oops, sorry, you got to hit that first. So we get our first time frame, and then you want to click in here on compare to past. And now it automatically is going to bring up the equivalent number of days immediately in the past, okay? So let's say that if you can change this if you want to. If you don't want this to be immediately behind, let's say that you want to compare it to, the first 14 days in August, you're more than welcome to do that too. But I do want to compare this just to show you. And now we'll get a comparison. And so now we can see that, okay, from October 9th to October 22nd, we had 16,000 visits, as compared to the 2 weeks prior when we had 16,219 visits. So we've seen a small uptick in the number of visits. We have, however, seen a slight decline in pages per visit from 1.32 to 1.28, right? Now we can go in and look and say, okay, where's this traffic coming from? Well, if we look at our Google traffic, over the last 2 weeks, we've had 5,900 visits, and that is up over the previous time period from 5,388. And you can see right here the change is a 10% increase. However, Midwest Sports Fans traffic has dwindled a little bit. Part of that is because we were getting indexed by Google News for a while, and now we're not getting indexed by Google News, so that created a drop in traffic, right? Now I know that, but let's say that you didn't know that. If you're coming in here and looking at your analytics, you might say, so Google traffic is up 10%, but traffic from Midwest Sports Fans, which is my number one referrer, has been dropping. Why is that? Right? I mean, you look at this. It was 5,567. You dropped almost 1,000 views in 2 weeks. That's significant. And so you want to find out. Now, I happen to know the answer for why that is the case, but if you don't, this will highlight it for you, and you'll know that you need to go look at something and figure out why you're not getting as much traffic. Again, you're not going to know that unless you have these statistics and you're looking at them. Okay, so that's traffic sources. And again, we go on and on. My goal today is to give you kind of an overview. So we'll move on, but I can get more advanced with this later in another webinar if you'd like. Now, the other thing that you can learn about is your visitors, okay? And it's always good. Obviously, you can create better content and tailor your content more to your audience the more that you know about them. So when we look at the visitors overview page, it's going to give us information that we got, the same information that we got basically from that dashboard. And I'm going to take off the comparison for right now just to keep it a little bit simpler. So let's just look at the last 2 weeks. Okay, so here's our traffic for the last 2 weeks. Now we can see the overall numbers. We can see where they're coming from. So we look right here. Let's view the full report. We all, kind of say ugh about Internet Explorer, especially the old versions of Internet Explorer. But the reason why you still have to make sure that you design for Internet Explorer is because 42% of the visitors come from there, right? Same with Firefox and Safari and Chrome. I mean, that's a significant amount. And you can see, are people looking at my site via mobile? Well, look, we got Blackberries all over the place. So a decent amount of people are looking at it. There's over 100 people there who have looked at it in the last 2 weeks via mobile. So, you want to make sure that your site looks good in mobile, obviously, if people are coming to it from their phones. And again, looking at this, that alerts you to the fact that, hey, I better go check and see how this site looks on the mobile phone. Okay, so let's go back. So we saw browsers. And then you can also look at connection speed. And so you can see, are people... what are people typically coming in on? And, obviously that's not as big a deal now because pretty much everybody has high-speed internet. But another thing that's very, very nice and very illustrative is this map overlay. Now, this isn't as big a deal for me for this fantasy sports site because, to be honest, and let me take off this comparison again. To be honest, I don't really care if you are from Indiana or if you're from India. If you're coming to the site, you're looking for fantasy information, it's all the same. However, if you have a local business, right, then this is going to be very important to you. So first we can see by country, right? And obviously the majority of the people are from the United States. We would expect that, it's all about the NFL. So let's click on the United States and we can get a little bit more granular. Okay, and this first page that's going to bring up is by state. So we can see that the most visitors are California, New York, Texas, Illinois, Florida, and in general, this is basically going by population because, again, it's not tailored to any specific to any specific state or any specific location. If you play fantasy football, you're in the market. But let's say that your business is in Indiana that you're promoting, and you come in here and you look and you say, okay, my business is in Indiana. We're getting a lot of traffic, but Indiana is only 16th, and it's only getting 333 out of these 15,000 visits. So you may be saying to yourself, okay, I'm driving this traffic, but is it helping me? Do I need all this other traffic? Okay, and you can get more granular than that. So let's say that it is in Indiana, and let's say that your business is in Fort Wayne. Okay, so now you're going to want to know how many visits are coming from the Fort Wayne area because, okay, great, 87 visits from Indianapolis. I'm a local company. That doesn't matter to me. Okay, Fort Wayne, I'm only getting 15 visits. Oh goodness. Maybe I need to do something to attract more people from Fort Wayne. So for a local business, having this map overlay is absolutely essential information as you try and gauge whether or not you're having success. Because if you just look at this dashboard and you say, awesome, 16,000 views, that's fantastic. We're rocking and rolling. But if you're a local business and if that's not translating over here into the map section, then what are you really doing? That means that you're spending time and money to create traffic that isn't going to be convertible because it's not in the location that you want. So paying attention to this map overlay report can be very, very important. And then you can also look at some other things. You can look at visitor loyalty, for instance. So, you can look and see, okay, the 61% of the people have come, have repeated one time. Okay, which is nice. And there's, a few people who have actually come over 100 times because they really like the site. So you can kind of see where's the loyalty level at. And there's a lot of different different reports in here that are going to be good for some people and unnecessary for others. You can see that 61% of the visitors are new for this time period, whereas 6,000 were returning visitors. And for a site like MSF Fantasy, where the content kind of repeats each week, there's a stardom situm for week 1, a waiver wire for week 1, and then it goes to week 2. Obviously, I want to see this number increase. I want returning visitors, or else I know that people are looking at the information and they're not liking it because they're not coming back. Okay, so let's go back out here to the front. I know I went through that very, very quickly, just kind of scratched the surface on some things, but I wanted to give you a general overview of everything that's there. And those are really, for I would think most of your purposes, those are really going to be the things that you want. Now, there's a lot more that you can do in terms of custom reporting, tracking goals, things like that. That's going to be for another webinar because it's a little bit more advanced. But I want to make sure, we only have about 3-4 minutes. So if anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to ask them. There's a little Q&A box. You can also ask them in the chat. Please ask. I'm not going to be able to stay any longer than 4 o'clock tonight because I am headed up to the ballpark in Arlington to see Game 6 of the Rangers-Yankees series, so I am going to have to leave on time. But please ask questions if you have them. And, again, also with, in terms of looking at the past, another place where that can be really good is when you look in your keywords. Okay, and you can actually see how keywords are performing over time, just like you can see how the traffic sources are performing over time. Now, again, for MSF Fantasy Sports, this really isn't that important because as you can see, this week 6 waiver wire, this was the biggest traffic driver over the past 2 weeks. But no one's searching on week 6 waiver wire for the 2 weeks prior because it was weeks 4 and 5, so it was irrelevant, right? So those don't really matter, but I'm sure there probably are some keywords here that we will get some relevant statistics on. And certainly for a site where the content doesn't basically reset itself every week, you will get some of these. Right, so like here, buy low fantasy football 2010. So a couple weeks ago, there were 31 visits. Now there have been only 20. So I have to ask myself, I wonder why. It's kind of a small sample size, not really probably relevant enough to make any judgments based on. But if that was one of my big keywords, and there's a 35% drop, again, I'm going to want to figure out why. Okay? And coming in here, analyzing your analytics, that allows you to know what questions do you need to be asking. What answers do you need to find out? And if you don't come in here and look, you're never going to know. So it's very important to, A, have analytics installed, B, to be in here looking at it consistently, and then C, to actively be asking yourself questions as you go through. Here's another one. General fantasy football stardom situm 2010. Traffic's up 14%. Again, in this actual case, it's too small a sample size for it to really mean anything. But if the numbers were big, 14% change can be important, and you want to be asking yourself why that is.